I'm a pain my whips maraschino, 'cause I'm a fucking diva.
Baby, I don't rock Moschino, Versace, Valentino.
Real Italiana, mama, new Bottega, Pradada.
New Bottega, Pradada, Pradada.
The spirit of Azalea Banks has descended upon the podcast for today.
God, I wish you would be a guest. I'd wave the. It has to be an IRL friend,
Yeah,
uh, just for the chaos that would be. No, we tried to make the Bottega Sator-Rotas square.
we did, yeah.
We did, yeah.
And we gotta
Prada.
yeah, we had to take Prada and make it an Order 7 Magic Square.
Mhm.
Get all those sympathies involved, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. Um,
Oh man.
why Bottega? I mean, it's because of the amazing conclave.
Yeah.
Um, like AMV. Do we still call them that? Um,
Yeah, I get kind of an AMV.
yeah.
Spiritually, it's an AMV.
It's a deeply spiritual AMV. We'll link it. It's
Yeah.
good.
It it is good. It's amazing. It's campy.
Yes.
And I love a magic square, much like the Arrhenius, another friend of the pod,
Hmm. Oh my
who
god.
can be conclaving it up with some new Bottega.
Mm-hmm. Bradada. It's also just I've been constantly like whispering under my my breath. It's become my new verbal tick. I will say though, for the longest time I've been pronouncing it Sator Square, and I'm gonna try and train myself to say Sator Square for this
Yeah,
episode because I remember someone once asked about like satyrs, like the fawns with like the hairy legs and the goat feet, Pan and all that. And I kept trying to talk about like the square. And the
yeah,
person was like, no, I mean satyrs. And I was like, okay, I need to not. We're done. We're done. It's Sator now. I
yeah,
mean, it's actually a much better Latin pronunciation, but whatever.
totally, yeah. And it's one of those words where my Midwestern really comes out, and all of the consonants kind of smush together. I go
Well,
Seder.
yeah, well, Sator squares are like it makes the Serbian leave me for some reason. It's exercises. Instead of wanting to like roll R's and do short vowels, I like lean very into a more I don't know North American accent with it because I like the only context in which I've discussed it extensively has been with English speakers. But then like I need to start being like how would I tell some of my other teachers about it? Sator quadrat. There we go. Oh
Love
my
it.
god.
I like the alternate name that's used in a lot of the scholarly writing about this very square is the Sator-Rebus.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's the rebus.
Oh my god, you love Arepo's.
I do.
Yeah. Shout outs to Castlevania Season 3.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect season.
And people hate it, by the way. Like, it's very controversial.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, and you're like, Fuck you, Saint Germain,
I love
Arepas."
a mountain of magic wielding bisexuals fighting for power.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Mood.
Bottom text.
For real.
Be not alarmed at the frightful howls which you may hear. It's Sfinga and Bostrophodon key.
Yes, today I am Bostrophodon Key. For those who don't know, this is the reading something from left to right and then looping around and going right to left by each line
Ah.
of text, which was a very common method of both reading and inscribing the very squares that we will be talking about today.
I love palindrome.
Totally, yeah.
Ablanathan Alba, Akramakamari.
It's true.
Mm.
There is some speculation that Ablanathan Alba is the something of an origin phrase for the Sator Square.
Hmm.
It was a very hot take that was immediately rejected by the, most scholars who actually work on the Sator inscriptions.
Hmm.
But it exists, and that it exists makes me happy.
Did you try and like find all the different Bostrophodons that you could possibly like think of when you were researching this?
I was my brain was numbers at this point. I was looking at too many squares,
Hmm.
like the some of like the Gibb palindrome studies and stuff like that, which
Hmm.
we will certainly get into.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of which, please remember to check us out on patreon.com/the Frightful Howls. We have a bonus episode every month curated by and just for our patrons, a Discord server where you could link your favorite palindromes and
Yeah,
squares and things. Man, I took a class a long time ago, like an actual academic class on at the PGM. And one of the things that we did was try and like think of as many word squares as possible, just from like random, yeah, ones that we're looking at as well as new ones. It's fun.
yeah, I love it. I love number squares too as a form of recreational mathematics.
Hmm. Totally, totally. But yeah, come join us, chat about the episodes, chat about life, magic, food, lots of food pictures, cute animals that you're friends with, and more.
Yeah,
We got a monthly live occult book club as well. We discuss a text of your choosing, show notes for every episode, and a whole tier for a monthly group spell work from us on your behalf.
also, remember to give us a like, a rating, and a review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever it is you might be listening to us. It helps us fight the demiurge of the algorithm, who we will also be talking about today.
Literally. Like unironically, that people want a demiurge episode, by the way.
They do.
They do. They hunger for it. But will we give it to them, or will we try and ward him?
Yeah, it's like a Roko's situation
Oh no,
where like,
not the Rogue's Basilisk. I actually think that we could probably get away with a really good like demiurge starting from Plato and Aristotle as like the divine workman
yeah,
before he got the nasty reputation that he now has, and then go forward into some Gnostic controversies, if you will.
Gnostic Controversies is a great name for both a band and like a second century proclamation.
An utterance.
Yeah, just a quip, if you will.
Equip that quip. And while you're at it, check out our services. Kia offers personalized coaching in magic and mediumship and the construction of number squares, sorcery for hire, readings, and teaching of Lenormand. Custom talismans, oils, and tools. I offer bulk and pharmacy readings, and both of us offer occasional limited occult wares over on withcunningandcommand.com.
That we do. So if you need custom number squares for any purpose, or if you would like to just shoot the shit and hear my rant about why the numbers are actually in the places that they are in the planetary cameos, hit me up.
Hell yeah.
And lastly, hit us up on social media. Svinga is at Dragon Cunning, and I am at barnell.key.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, episode 72.
You thought it would be Goetia, but it's not. We are
It's not.
banishing the demons instead of invoking them
Mhm,
with our, what I might say is our favorite demon banishing apotropaic charm,
mhm. How
being,
many do you have carved into your home?
um, I was about to say too many, but I don't think you can really have too many of these.
I mean, I love, in the posts, on clay tablets hanging from walls, on perfumed parchment paper, in your phone case,
Totally,
anywhere
yeah.
where fires are happening.
Yeah. I like to take the smoke alarms down and put one of these behind each of them.
Beautiful.
So a little fire go away.
Mhm,
But yeah, we were talking about the Sator Square, the most commonly known today as a general purpose protection thing, especially against fire and natural disaster and accident, that sort of thing. But as we will come to find out, they have a very long and very varied history
mhm,
in which they have been applied to quite literally everything and have been a puzzle that people have been working on since their oldest um, archaeological record, really dating back to the first century, if not earlier. And one of the primary things that I wanted to do to start this episode is actually shout out one of the authors that I cited throughout this, which is Rose Mary Sheldon for her paper "The Sator-Rebus: An Unsolved Cryptogram," without which this episode would have been a massive pain in the ass to put together. So, right at the start, I recommend going and grabbing a copy of that and giving it a read because it is awesome. But to dive into it, what is the first encounter that you had with this square?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't recall. It might have been one of those like encyclopedias of like magical symbols that I remember having as a preteen on deck. Like there was one that was like mystic signs, symbols, and codes, something like that. Like this is a
Yeah,
complete paraphrase from memory, but it was this kind of reddish brown cover. That I remember getting from like a Scholastic book fair or something, which we were recently discussing the virtues of the Scholastic book fair in the server, and the many spirits that patron it. But yes, and I think I just saw it there, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think when I was like 12 or something, and then much later, I saw it popping up again, and anytime I was really reading on cultism and different symbols. And then eventually, what my favorite places to spot it was in the wild. So I remember just like walking down the street and seeing it carved into a building, or seeing it drawn in posts. I remember seeing it once over a front door, and I was like just absolutely enchanted. And it's like, great, this is good. More of that, please. But I didn't really understand the full context of it, especially not nearly to the degree that you and I have now researched it in hindsight. So I'm really excited that you took the lead on an episode, one of our kind of a research-based episode on sharing some of the scholarship on Sator squares and where they possibly come from and how they've been employed over the years.
totally, yeah. And that's really one of the things that I like about the Sator Square is it is a apotropaic charm that just is everywhere. Like you were
Mhm.
saying, people still use this and it proliferates around. It's, visually striking and it does do its job. The first time that I ever encountered them was because I was a nerd and really into cryptography
Hell
when I
yeah.
was younger.
You were
So
you were on the other end of the Johannes Trithemius spectrum. Like
yeah,
people wanted to summon angels with drawing spirits into crystals. You were right in the steganography.
exactly. I was like, none of this. It all means something else. And now I'm like, it means both things because it's a beautiful work of art of a book.
Yeah.
Um, but the first time that I ever encountered one in a magical context was actually in Paul Hewson's Mastering Witchcraft, where
Ah.
it is employed as a love spell.
Yes, yes, I remember that.
And we will certainly be talking about that specific example later on. But for the people listening at home, I wanted to start out with just answering the question, what is a Satyr square? Um, because it is actually kind of an interesting one.
Mhm.
So for those who haven't seen this, just Google what this is and come back.
Yeah,
But
Sator.
yeah, but it is a 5 by 5 acrostic of the words Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, Rotas. And this is a very unique set of words because if you read them forwards, backwards, up and down, rotate it around and read it in other different directions and play around with it and fiddle with it and transform it, it maintains its shape, it maintains its palindrome, it maintains its striking central cross of tenet, and really it gets into some fun gematria and numerological correspondence. But that aside, there is a huge body of academic research, as it turns out, from sources from archaeological disciplines, religious studies, ethnological perspectives, um, anthropology, folklore, all that sort of stuff that really kicked off in the 1880s with what amounted to a literature review of known instances of this thing showing up being published in Germany.
Mhm.
And it turns out that these things go back about 2,000 years as far as our archaeological record goes. with the earliest known example being Roman in origin, found as graffiti in Pompeii. And the artifact that it was etched on was a pillar in a square that we know fell over in 62 AD. So we know it must have come from around or before then. Um, and it's interesting too because every known example of the square that was created before the 6th century is upside down when compared to how they're written by convention now. So it begins with Rotas, then opera, tenet, Arepo, Sator, with a little more context on why this might be later. But whatever the shape, whatever the form, the significance and the use of this thing exploded across the Roman Empire and extended to pretty much anyone who ever had contact with Rome, either in the form of being at war with them or trading with them or having any level of cultural exchange. This thing spread through the ancient world as a mimetic virus of sorts, being found in graffiti on artifacts, in roof tiles, in the margins of books and things um, throughout history. It's due
Hmm.
to this evocative and weird property of this thing. And as the 6th century rolled around, and probably a little earlier, which we'll get into, the meaning of the square is largely understood to be Christian or Christian adjacent, um, at least in all of its entire modern understanding. The reason for this is that this phrase, Sator-Arepo tenet opera rotas, um, breaks down into an acrostic that you can make of the word Pater Noster, like Our Father in the Lord's Prayer,
Hmm.
twice in the form of a cross with the N in the middle. And after making that, you have two sets of alpha and omega left over. So this thing, whether or not it started out as this, rapidly developed as a encoded Christogram of sorts.
We love an encoded Christogram.
That we do.
Hmm. A little Jesus in a toast.
Yeah, very true.
Mm.
Little Jesus in the Pompeian graffiti.
Mm.
And being so early in the archaeological record after the the events
Mm.
of the crucifixion and everything like that has been problematic for a lot of scholars, but um, the question is kind of open. But
Sabrina Carpenter does not know the various historical proofs of the living Christ.
so true.
Oh my god.
Oh man. But um, to enlighten Sabrina Carpenter and tell her, what does a square actually mean? There is a pretty neat Latin solution being the sower, like as in sowing seeds. A repo, it's a proper noun or a name, holds or guides carefully the wheels of the plow. And this leads to what is I saw referred to very dramatically in one of these papers as the Arepo problem,
Ooh.
which I like quite a bit.
Mm.
But really the easiest parts of this uh sower sator here is usually understood, at least in the context of most of this history after the 6th century, as reference to the parable of the sower in the Gospel of Matthew. This is the nominative noun serere, to sow, and you know um tenere, to hold or holding, but it's more in the sense of like holding knowledge or like holding something steady in time. So it's a bit more poetic than just like, I drive the car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also like this really, um, yeah, a lot of different speculation about a repo problematically being the only known use of this term, um, which has led to a lot of head scratching over the years and making people think that it is a name and just kind of hand waving it away as that. Um, but to get even more into that question, there is my favorite title of any paper in the last year so far, being Alberto Cavasola's The Coherent Meaning of the Rotas Sator Squares and Sentences Until Magicians Messed It Up.
And we always do.
We do. We really do.
Magicians and they're projecting meaning into the past to conjure a notion of a coherent lineage in intellectual history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this neatly solves the dramatically named Arepo problem by saying Arepo doesn't mean shit. um,
Well, that's convenient.
yeah, as a beautiful first start to this episode, this is just kind of a filler word that makes the acrostic work. Um,
Mm.
at least so is thought here. We'll get into some very fun alternative explanations shortly, but there is a speculation from, addressing this question: why are all of the squares upside down in the first through the sixth centuries? Why are they rotas? Why are they not sator? And this is part of the joke. It's understood that rotas apera sator, when read in that order, roughly kind of poetically translates to you rotate the square and the riddle keeps working.
I
So
love
if you,
that.
I love it too, because if you rotate that formation of the square 90 degrees, it gives you the Sator format because of the double acrostic, and then reads straight through as a palindrome. And it's like,
Hmm.
I got you. So there's the
Hmm.
joke to begin what this thing actually is.
It's like one of those illuminati triangle ones.
It is, yeah.
Hmm. Or like
And
look here. Oh, Key, do you remember we were at like do you remember there was a um stone at Aphrodite's temple in Paphos in Cyprus that was like pick me up or like turn me over or something like that? And then
yeah,
when we did, it just said like remember to pray to God.
yeah. So funny.
Remember to rotate the square because the
It's
riddle will
true.
keep advancing.
Oh yeah. And the riddle advances in some interesting directions when you find ways mathematically to rotate it less than 90 degrees.
Mm.
But more on that later. Um, most recent scholarly writing as early as like 2018, or as recently as 2018, namely Megan O'Donnell's The Rotas Wheel, Form and Content in a Pompeian Graffito, supports this more so like figurative interpretation by comparing this particular square to the textual and visual interplay style of other forms of Pompeian graffiti around the same time.
Mm.
So this is where scholarly consensus is moving kind of at most recent check. Um, although there's still a little debate about what's going on, and due to how deeply entrenched this kind of um, back mapping of the inherently Christian message of the square is going into, the first century, second century AD. One of the things that happens though continues the trend of magicians messing things up by doing the witchcraft um, author's favorite thing from back in the day of providing extremely sketchy etymological justifications for words of power. So there's a proposed etymology here.
Mm.
Um, heavy emphasis and air quotes on proposed. Um, for what is going on with this Arepo problem. There's an argument made that this is a Greek loan to Latin with a corrupted form of a corruption of the original Greek umbrella term, referring to curved blades, especially those used in farming practices at the time. Therefore, this construction of Sator Arepo makes a little more sense of like the sower, the agrarian, with the curved blade, which makes this then a reference to Saturn.
Ah, of
So
course.
And the Saturnian applications of the square, are really obvious with it appearing in famously the second pentacle of Saturn in the Key of Solomon and finding its use kind of in this sludgy Saturnian slowing down and entangling of spirits within the riddle of the square itself and within its acrostic properties. For those who have ever scribed this thing, you know the gunk that I'm talking about. So, following this kind of construction, there's a suggestion of uh, a poetic translation being the grower marked by a pruning knife governs with care the wheels of the plow, which is a great poetic thing going on for Saturn. I like
Mm.
this. Um, but there is kind of a more literal understanding given of the creator god carefully drives the wheels being both literal of plows and more metaphorical of destiny, of fate, of time. And there's some further explanation that's a little beyond the scope here of, the strains of thought and philosophical pessimism present in kind of the Roman Empire at this time, with various authors being like, "Oh, the golden age is coming to an end. Things are falling apart around us." Things people are constantly and always saying um, throughout history. But this offered a highly mimetic and highly transmissible message of some hope, of some optimism, of, hey, let's just have some faith in this Saturnian older age and say, this is meant to happen. Fuck it. Let's go forward. Which is, I think, a very hopeful postulation for why this thing became so popular.
Yeah, I was reading actually an article called the Rotas Sator Square: A New Investigation. This was from 1987, and by William Baines, who discusses the idea of the Sator Square being an anagram for Paternoster written twice with the alpha and omegas displayed. And it was interesting because one of the things that he was talking about was for a long time it was assumed to be a medieval symbol. But
Right.
once the discovery of the graffiti in the Pompeii were proven, were found, there was a concern, right? Does this actually mean it's a Lord's Prayer in Latin form? Uh, and that Alpha Omega symbolism is more from the Book of Revelations, which was not only current, among Italian Christians prior to 79 AD, but it had to be hidden. And so this latter date being so early seems improbable because Christians were so little understood outside of their immediate social circles, even much later. And he cites Pliny's Elder to Trajan. So it would have been really like the average Roman seeing the square or a paternoster as a formula would have assumed it probably was Jupiter or Saturn or Caesar.
Yeah.
Nor would the cruciform would that would be particularly strange. Like that wouldn't inherently convey Christianity. So for
Right.
him, it's really his article is like, is the paternoster interpretation and bait like sound or not? But one thing that he does mention that's interesting is that the Latin language, because of its short alphabet and limited vowels and general avoidance of consonantal clusters, is pretty much ideal for producing word squares.
It really is, yeah.
Mm.
And there have been, statistical analyses done from Latin dictionaries of like every 5-letter palindrome arranged into a possible word square. And the conclusion of one of the earliest authors of the study being the Sator arrangement or like the Rotas arrangement, whatever way you want to look at it, is the one that just sounds normal.
Mm.
And the reason it became so popular is because as a recreational activity among kind of landed gentry and aristocracy around the first century in Rome, they were all fucking around with like word games.
Yeah, yeah. He basically in his conclusion he says, well, none of the arguments that he presents constitutes proof one way or another. The fact that it is possible to abstract pseudo-Christian formulae from a hypothetical word square as he generates must throw some serious doubt on the validity of the paternoster explanation. And basically, that it may be that no explanation is called for other than the fascination with the arrangements that this hold for people, but why it should be this particular square out of the 88 possible ones. Um, remains a mystery for him because there's other ones where you can have witnessing, like for example, like testi ex Mariat, so testi ex Mariata, it's like for a witness out of Mary, or for example, he does itamen Christi, so amen, O Christ. And there's one of like astra nomini, with the T's omitting. So he gives like different possibilities for Christian word squares. And and this the final conclusion for him, which is so funny to me, and kind of went back to your point, Key, was like perhaps the lie, what the true key lies with some unknown man called Arepo.
Yeah.
Yeah. One quick thing though, in the notes of his article, he says that the only word square that he's found to be possible in English was warts, apart, radar, trappa, and straw. And then he just notes, which is singularly banal.
I love that.
I don't love that. I wanna redeem the warts square. Like, what if we start using that to like cure warts?
Yeah, I was about to say anti-wart,
Yeah, awards,
charming.
charming apart that I detect on the radar. I trap them in the straw, the oat straw, and oat straw is good for your skin, right? And remove
Yeah,
it. Yeah, there we go. I will. I'm sorry, Mister. I
I
will
like it.
absolutely redeem this word square. Catch me in 3 months being able to heal a
Yeah.
wart with this. I will try.
And this is why the paper is so beautifully titled, "The Coherent Meaning of the Rotas Sator Square or Sentence Until Magicians Messed It Up."
Yeah, yeah.
But that's perfect though. Like I let's try this charm. I like it.
Yes.
So, um, to return to my namesake for this episode, the Basra Fendon key. If we take this, Sator arrangement and read it in this fashion, left to right, right to left, etc., with the central word repeating, which is another common scholarly interpretation just based on graffiti and stuff like that from around the time. It can be read as Sator opera Tenet, Tenet opera Sator. Solves the Arepo problem. Sorry, Arepo. Um, which people are loosely translating as you sow, so shall you reap. Which again, beautiful, spreadable, optimistic for the time, and very doable.
Hmm.
And this is preferred again because it's less hand wavy about this character of Arepo and neatly removes it from what's actually happening. But it's also preferred because this is just a straight up invocation of the demiurge in the Pythagorean and Stoic sense from the time,
Hmm.
with this figure of like the sator, the sower, being this creator, this first mover, the one who planted the seed of the material reality and just said, "Go forth." There's also some hot takes that do bear mentioning. Like the consensus is that there's in no way are these plausible, but they do exist. And I saw some commentary that, especially in like francophone interpretations of what's happening here, Arepo is the name of like a specific type of Gaulish wheeled plow. But this is like really widely rebuked as people trying to fit meaning into whatever's going on here.
Hmm.
There's also some, anagram interpretations, most notably the Paternoster one, that we were talking about with two paternosters in the form of a cross and two sets of alpha and omega. Um, but there are some where it's either a Latin invocation or exorcism of Satan as like a short fragment, that are really sketchy grammatically. And there is another theory that this could be an abbreviated anagram for Benedictine monastic rule, which of course quickly fell apart when people found this in Pompeii. But sat orare potenter et opera re ratio to sit. Your purpose is to pray and to work. Um,
Which is a great instruction for a shrat.
it is. It really is. Also, for the name is escaping me. The statues you put on shrines to tend to the shrine for you.
Oh, the Shaptis.
Yes, the Shabtis.
Yeah, yeah, Egyptian Shapti.
Mhm. They just go and pray.
Mhm.
And so, following up with this kind of pre-Christian or like anti, like around the same time as like the foundation of Christianity, um, that as with most things of trying to find meaning, there isn't a lot of scholarly consensus, like we just ran through. Um, there's a growing consensus that this textual visual interplay is the main point, just that it's fun when you fiddle around with it and look at its property. And the meaning of the words is really secondary to its uh, striking visuals and like how it behaves mechanically and mathematically. Um, that said, there is a argument that is surprisingly coherent, that is backed up a bit by the archaeological record, that there is actually a Judaic origin for this square.
Hmm.
Um, and there's an author named Stig Hedlund who has written a lot about this. So I recommend just searching that. We'll also link it for the notes and throw it around the Discord, I'm sure. But he talks about how the construction of the Sator square as an act is following the instructions to Moses for building an altar in Exodus, and talks about how the 5 cubit by 5 cubits is the 5 by 5 of the square. How when you rotate the square and run it through a series of mathematical translations that he outlines that are a pain to explain verbally, you can get to a point where the whole thing is like a perfect looping Ouroboros of brazen and serpent,
Mm, beautiful.
which goes shockingly hard. Um, the math trickery that's involved to get to this point, in practice, I fuck with extremely heavily and like it very much. But from if I'm not being the magician who's messing up the obvious meaning of the square, it's a bit of a reach, but it's there. And if it means something to you as that magician, go for it.
Hmm.
He also gives a really strong counter argument against Arepo actually having any meaning, which I quite appreciated. And the language of it, I'm like, why is this so familiar? And I'm like, you are from where I grew up.
Oh.
So shoutouts to whatever's in the water making people obsessed with squares. And so, but apart from that, one of the like remaining questions as we're getting into it's this visual pun, this Roman word game that was popular around the time. It's this graffiti that's just kind of spreading around, giving this optimistic message. The question arises of where did magical function show up in this? Like, where did this come from? And there is speculation that wherever it came from, it arose around 200 AD, as seen in some etchings and graffiti at the temple of Artemis Azanthkona at Dura Europas, which is a ruin that at the time was, a Roman garrison and religious site near the village of Sahia in present-day Syria.
Hmm.
And there was a an excerpt from that original paper that I wanted to include here.
The original excavation reports for the discovery of the 4 examples of the Sator formula found in a temple of Artemis Azanathkana at Dura Europos, the Syrian city that for the last years of its existence, circa AD 165 to 256, was an important fortress in the Roman military defenses against Parthia and then Sasanian Persia. The camp of the Romans was located in the section of the city in which the formula inscriptions were found. It is apparent that the rooms of the temple were taken over by the military, probably at the beginning of the 3rd century, when the garrison was considerably increased by local Semitic recruits. A number of the inscriptions are of Kabbalistic character: alphabets, magic signs and symbols, pentagrams, evil eyes, a magic animal, and several hermetic texts and mystic tablets. The room in which the Sator formulae were found also contained a large number of graffiti relating to military affairs and indicate that it was a clerical office for the garrison.
I love a clerical office for the garrison. It's just a magician's workshop.
Literally.
But at the time here, we see that this is definitely going around, both as a form of graffiti, maybe giving people some hope, but also protection at this time, being mixed in with these other, written charms, magic signs, all of these things that are kind of exploding in this familiar practice of the kind of Roman Empire and also the Near East, where we're having these cultural exchanges. So all of this is kind of going around, and we are seeing its use explode. It's popular. It's spreading all over the place. And as time goes on and the understanding of its meaning becomes more and more Christianized, and this kind of understanding of this paternoster symbolism is being back mapped onto the square through what is probably the craziest coincidence of linguistic history. There is, yeah, not really any serious scholarly debate going on anymore, that this thing wasn't fully Christian in its understanding at the point of the 6th century. There's this Jesuit historian named Jean Denelot who claimed that podcast favorite and in fact friend of the podcast, Arrhenius, knew of the square and had written of him who joined the beginning with the end and is the Lord of both and has shown forth the plow at the end, with regards to the square. And when he was active, this is, of course, placing this understanding in the 3rd century, so not long after our previous inscriptions in this Temple of Artemis. And there is speculation here as well that Arrhenius was mapping this 5-word acrostic and 5x5 onto the most obvious 5 in his life, which is the 5 wounds of Christ.
And it's interesting too because when it comes to historians examining this kind of work, it's to a magician's mindset, as it were. All of this is a yes. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's a backronym, even if it's projected only in hindsight, even if it's like, half of our grimoires are pseudepigraphic texts that attribute their authorship to a much older person, right? And it's one of those things of like, yes, of course, and now if there's a number of 5 things and that wasn't at all Christian, now we'll say it's the 5 wounds of Christ. Or,
Right.
of course, like some earlier example is now a prophetic omen of Christ to come. And even in non-Christian matters this is the case. So it's one of those things where it's, I understand the value in history. Of course, it's very important, right, to be very critical and to understand what are the more likely answers for things. But for a magician, it's all yes, including the things that are very
Yes.
modern and completely new and completely like like literally like within the last 20 years, new attributions to this. Or for example, let's say, I mean, this is not the case, but let's say that Paul Hewson's book is the first place where the Sator Square is used for romance. This is not the case, but let's just pretend it is. Well, now it is for romance, right? It's like,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a lot of this magical application really mirrors the linguistic and graffiti creation of this as well. It's people going, let me try some shit. Let's see what properties this has, and then all of a sudden it's like popping out. It's, oh, here's this cool double acrostic. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, cool. Let's write this on a sheet of paper with some blood and put it in front of the person I'm trying to give my hand with in marriage, and then it works. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Now it's for that.
Yeah, a whole generation of people are using it for that purpose now. It's part of their tradition.
Totally. And this is firmly rooted in the tradition by the 6th century, which is the earliest archaeological example of this thing being explicitly Christian by this point, where the Berlin State Museum now is in possession of this artifact, which is a 6th century bronze amulet that has 2 fish turned toward one another on one side, and it has the Sator square in Greek on the reverse. And written above the square is the word ichthus, which of course being Greek for fish, but also the famous, Jesus fish.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is the earliest example. There are also some Coptic papyri with satyr squares that date from the 4th century, but it's not super archaeologically certain that they shared this understanding, although, in context, people think it did. So just something to consider in terms of the application, but also the scope and geographic reach of this being, involved in the Coptic papyri production. I also wanted to mention, just because I wasn't able to find the specific index number of this, despite it being referenced constantly in the different papers I was reading, and which drove me a little insane. Um, it interprets the Sator Square to contain the baptismal names of the 3 magi, which are Ator, Sator, and Peritoras. This understanding also spread where we see in Cappadocia at the time of Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus. who was,
Ooh.
ooh, uh, and who was emperor, I guess, from 913 to 959. The shepherds of the Nativity by this point are definitively named Sator, Arapon, and Teneton.
Honestly, that fucks.
It fucks really hard.
Oh, oh my god. What a great trinity.
Yeah, right. It's a really I like it. And
Ha have
the
you
homie Arepo now has a personage in the
Yeah,
Shepherd of the Nativity.
literally. Have you seen those memes that are like, you ever think the 3 wise men ever, like, hung out again? And we're like, "Yo, remember we saw the baby?" Well, they did forever on these
Yeah,
squares.
they did.
All this beef about who the hell Arepo is.
It's true.
Who
The Arepo problem. Problematic fave.
Yeah.
Um Also, what was that other joke you were telling me about the baby I can believe?
Oh, yeah, like, an immaculate, sorry, a virgin birth, I can completely believe. That doesn't that I for I believe women. So, I'm not that's not an issue. But, 3 wise men in the same place at the same time? Nah, that's the part that's
So
hard to
good.
buy.
So good. Oh man. And magicians, I don't think they're creating problems at this point because these links to other things continue to go extremely hard. Where we see in a 1898 Egypt Exploration Fund archaeological report that they found a Coptic formula against illness, which is to be written and carried as a talisman in Faras, which is a city that is now underwater because of a lake created by a dam on the border of Egypt and Sudan.
Which means that you have to go visit it.
It's true. Yeah. Get the scuba gear out. We're going.
Mhm.
And the talisman that is to be carried reads, "These are the names of the nails of Christ: Sadur, Danet, Adera, Rodas."
Great for, maybe some oral charming when you're
Yeah.
doing, like, the 5 days of Christ, when you're trying to pin something down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. And with Coptic tradition holding that there are four nails instead of the three that we see the other times, might as well just name the three or five or however many nails you have after the square.
Mhm.
It goes hard. So as we're kind of leaning harder into these magical applications, I wanted to also reference, while still in this context, their application in a particular funeral rite, which is found in an Ethiopic magico-religious funerary text. Um, that is the Bandalet of Righteousness, additional manuscript 16204 for the British Library heads listening. This thing could be its own episode, but long story short, like I said, 16th century Ethiopic magico-religious funerary text that starts with a frame narrative about how God the Father revealed the secret names of God to Jesus, who then gave them to Mary because of a vision she had of her relatives in hell, who then gave the secret names of God to her relatives. So
It's like a it's an oral charming consecration initiatic chain of transmission. Move over Solomon's ring that Michael gave him. We're in it to win it now.
totally, yeah. And with these particular secret names, when they're written out on a scroll of linen or parchment and wrapped around the corpse of a deceased person, they guarantee that the person will be brought straight to heaven. And I wanted to bring up this book just because it goes really fucking hard in the structure of its liturgy. It's mainly homilies to the angels that stand before God in the book of Enoch,
Mhm.
but then it dives really hard into what preparations being done to the body, and it names the five wounds of Christ as Sador, Alador, Danat, Adera, Rodas. So we're doing the counting oral charm thing too, with the three shepherds, the four nails, the five wounds, and we got
The
something
2
good going on.
natures of Christ,
Yeah,
the
the
one God.
yeah. What was it? Plotinus discovers the two.
Yeah, Plotinus announces the 2 is about to drop, yeah.
Oh man.
I spent so much of my undergrad reading the Enneads,
Oh
that
yeah.
that joke will never not be funny to me.
And with Plotinus announcing the two, we might as well announce the three and the four and the magical applications of the square because I love a smooth transition.
Oh, yes.
And like we kind of mentioned earlier, that this figure is so chimeric means it has taken on the ability to do whatever the fuck you want. Um, Infuriatingly, there is some commentary on a Bodleian manuscript that does not mention what number Bodleian manuscript it is, and I did not was not able to find it in the collection itself. But it is write these five Sator words on parchment with the blood of a culver, which is a type of pigeon. Bear it in thy left hand, and ask what thou wilt, and thou shalt have it. So it does everything,
Hmm.
but most commonly protection at this point, especially against fire, but it protects against everything.
Yeah. I've done the one with the dove blood on parchment, and I've not actually used it for like wishing, as it were. I used it for protection, but it's fascinating to see like it has like a sort of like a word square that manifests things from like the four elements, from the five winds of Christ, from the directions, from the levels of reality, and so on. I like it as a kind of cosmogram in that way.
Yeah,
That's encoded.
yeah, totally. It really, it really is the map onto which you can pull in any correspondence, any meaning, and draw it out of the inherent power of that figure and whatever other correspondence that you tend to put onto it. And I like something that's mercuric in that way. But in the application, because of this broad sense and not really requiring much beyond just writing it or carving it for it to like turn on, as it were, magically, um, you find it everywhere. It's on pottery fragments, on buildings, very famously in churches throughout Europe. There are notable examples of these being carved over doors, especially doors leading into places of saints weighing souls, like Saint Michael, especially. There's like some archaeological correspondence for that going on there, and also at military fortifications, like old Roman fortresses, Roman ruins, places where battle had occurred, places where conquest had occurred. These things turn up all over the place.
Hmm.
And with this, fiercely protective character, they also start to be used pretty rapidly against witchcraft of all sorts. So, notably, Second Pentacle of Saturn, Key of Solomon,
Yeah, the goat.
the goat itself. The versicle around the psalm is 72:8, which, yay, episode 72.
Yay!
And it reads as follows.
His dominion shall also be from the one sea to the other, and from the flood unto the world's end.
And I love this for this pentacle. I think it's not to say that the others aren't well thought out because they are, but this one just has like a chef's kiss to me. Um, because with all of the alpha and the omega ness of the encoded paternoster, the dominion from the beginning to the end. It's also worth noting that the Hebrew verse of this has 25 letters, so it's reinforcing itself as a 5 by 5 square.
Hmm.
I love it. It's the yes and of correspondence that makes me so happy. And this rears its head again. Similar application in the goat, Egyptian secrets of Albertus Magnus. The
The the OG.
Yeah, the German charming compendium that now made its way with the Pennsylvania Dutch into powwow, brauerei, all that stuff, with an excellent way to prove whether a person is a witch or not.
First, try to obtain St. John's roots and 1 ounce of herb of the same plant called moto. Write the following letters upon a scrap of paper and put to the root and herbs Sator, cross of Christ, Mildipos, Arepo, cross of Christ, Mesopos, Tenet, cross of Christ, Habenipos, Opera, Rotas. This was just sewed up in a piece of letter And if you wish to see the witch, only carry the paper with you, but it must be taken in the hour when the first quarter of the moon occurs. You will then perceive that no witch can remain in the same room with you.
I love this one.
It's a little bit like the scissors under the chair.
Yeah, the Witchfinder stuff, or the
Hmm.
stool on Christmas Eve that you sit on,
Yeah.
all that fun sort of stuff. And I love it too because it's like it shows just how malleable this thing is. Like, throw it in a charm bag, Satyr Square on one side, petition on the back, throw it in there, St. John root motto tied up in leather, perfect, good to go. And I love this example just because, like we said earlier, it's just layering correspondence. Do it in the moon, do it in these things. You can pull whatever power you need to from this thing because it's weird and cool, and spirits think it's the same. Then, uh, kind of moving forward from the protection, it also found its application in the medical, with its attested use for purposes like a treatment for or a prophylactic against rabies and kind of similar conditions. Um, with its use, being attested to in the Trottola, which is a collection of 12th century Italian medical manuscripts that focused on women's health issues,
Hmm.
where along with the names of the square, just a bunch of kind of abbreviations and letters that you write on cheese and butter and give to the person to eat, which is delicious.
Absolutely delicious.
Imagine getting like a butter mold of a Seder square.
Oh my God.
Should do that.
I mean, well, I think I've probably mentioned this way too many times at this point, but we talked about it a little bit in the bread magic episode, right? But
Yeah,
inscribing alphabets, like like the entire Cyrillic alphabet into a bread, and then eating one piece a day until it is complete is a healing method. Especially if the bread was made with mother's milk, includes breast milk. Sometimes the kind of milk is specified. It has to be from a
yeah,
young mother or an older mother, or both. Um, but there are, or like bread baked with the different kinds of herbs and so on and so forth, or the water itself that hydrates and literally leavens the yeast is one that has to be drawn from certain places. But a sort of a formula on a bread is absolutely something I've made. I love baking.
yeah.
I love bread, and I've made quite a few of these for different spirits, for as spirit traps, as blessings, as proofs of a petition working, because the actual petition itself was inscribed on a Sator square, which was then baked into it as well. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, and even um, just to pull one from like the Balkan context, like in Bosnia, feeding it to people on bread was used as a remedy for headaches,
Yeah.
and I love it because it's for everything. It's the panacea of the magic world.
Hmm.
There was another example I found that was really interesting too, in that it was from Brazil, in the 1830s, where it was recorded as being used as a prophylactic for rabies following a dog bite, as follows.
Each line of the acrostic is to be written separately on a slip of paper and then rolled in the form of a pill. All 5 pills are to be given to the patient as soon as possible after the person or animal has been bitten.
I love it. Love a paper pill.
I love it, and also, just even thinking about what is it to ingest a Quranic verse that was
Yeah,
written in sacred ink, or what is it to like lick the actual ink off the egg, in the PGM personal summoning a personal diamond ritual. What is it to ingest biblical verses, psalms, and so on. So many of those. I think we've talked about it in one of the early episodes on Super Incantation Bowl, where we
yeah,
discussed incantation as well as like that was one of the episodes I kind of spearheaded mostly to kind of show not just the judicial court case magic that takes place in some of these stories and narratives, but also just the notion of so many of these words, names of power, verses are coming from little priestly manuals that are and pamphlets essentially that are circulating, and so you get the Sword of Moses, even becomes a literal like treatise essentially of just here's where you can lift more oral charms and more written charms from.
totally. Yeah, and like all of these examples here, just giving them as like, what are the possible vehicles by which you can put text into different things? or just use the name or use it as like the world charm itself. So some good shit.
Mm.
And we see its use as well in the same fashion for neurological psychiatric conditions, things like this. We have this French example from Jean de Chau's Diveria Quercus Historia from 1555.
The citizens of Leon recovers from insanity after eating 3 crusts of bread, each inscribed with a magic square. The meal was punctuated by the recitation of 5 paternosters in remembrance of the 5 wounds of Christ and the 5 nails of the cross.
And there you go. The off the cuff example from earlier, someone's using it as early as
Yep,
1555.
love it.
It's the magician brain, it just chef's kiss. And I love a meal punctuated by recitation of prayers. That's just 3 crusts of bread. Um, Fasting mode. And as we talked about earlier, even more explicit magical um effects like cantrips,
Hmm.
such as against fire. German examples are the most prominent origin of this application. Um, and it was actually so popular that in 1743 there was an edict by a duke named Ernest Augustin of Saxe-Weimar, who ordered that all towns and villages should manufacture clay discs inscribed with the Sator square to serve as a means of quenching conflagrations. So this thing was a firefighting device in, I guess what at the time was the Holy Roman Empire.
Hmm.
And for the people hanging out in the Discord, somewhere back in the records are some doing experiments with this, like lighting shit on fire and just throwing squares at it, and videos of them going out right away.
I I love that. Like you, I think you had like several test ones, like placebos, for like a better term, like the kind of normal ones that
Yeah.
were just the exact same material, right? It was the same parchment or paper, whatever it was, and you were throwing it into the fire and it was burning. And then the ones where you wrote the Sator square and it was not burning. And I think if I recall correctly, out of 10, 9 worked,
Yes.
which is a really good record.
Yeah. And I was laughing too at the one that didn't work because I'm like, at this point, this is just my spirits fucking with me. But yeah, just written out in pen on brown paper and throwing it at fires and watching them go out. So
I love it.
if you want to come in the Discord, hang out. That's the type of shit we're up to. Um, but following this up, this becomes popular in the Pennsylvania Dutch over in the States. We encounter this famously in John George Hoffman's Powwows, or The Long Lost Friend from 1820, kind of the primary powwowing manual other than the Bible itself, with, this example.
Mhm.
Yeah, we again encounter it in Egyptian Secrets of Albertus Magus, kind of drawing on the same resources, with the art of extinguishing fire without aid of water. You inscribe the letters on each side of a plate, throw it at the fire, and the fire goes out.
Which is where so much of this experience came from, like, for you.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, ages ago when we were talking about, like, at least including them on the fire alarms and other kinds of things or putting them on the fire extinguisher. The notion of it extinguishing fire, was something I even spoke to some spirits of mine about because I was quite curious as to why fire specifically, and one of the things that kind of told me was like, "Well, who said fire specifically?" All, like, 4 elements are contained within the mastery of this particular formula. This is just the one that generally poses the greatest danger.
Totally, yeah.
So I started working on, for some of my weather magic, I use different bowls, and I started inscribing the squares on the bottom of like copper bowls that I have that I use for like essentially weather witching. And it's been great to just kind of play around with it and really, in some ways, reaffirm its potency to my spirits by telling them implicitly like this is a symbol set I wish to draw power from, and I expect us to incorporate it because of its ease of use and its broader historical significance.
Totally, yeah. That's a great use of it.
Hmm.
This thing is just kind of like a font of power, font of inspiration, right?
Hmm.
And kind of with that power, we see it used in all the classical magical applications, like you were just saying, weather witching, which is awesome. And we see it for love. We have one prominent example that I was kind of referencing off the cuff earlier is from Lady Wilde's Ancient Legends, Mystic Charms, and Superstitions of Ireland from 1888, where there's a story of a young girl who's enchanted by a poet using a spell in the form of a satyr square um, that he writes on a sheet of paper with blood, and when she picks it up, she becomes frozen and infatuated with him.
Yeah. Like I said, Paul Houston was not the first one to call on this. And it's interesting here too because of all those different terms we talked about, or many episodes of like this fascinates the woman or whatever, the piece of cheese, or simply saying this to the person. The very classic PGM one of just saying the Ferrieri like as like a secret name of Aphrodite, whilst or thinking it or gazing into someone's eyes and almost like hypnotizing them with it. Like this, it's interesting that like again it has power over the elements, but also power over being a man.
Absolutely, yeah. Has this kind of Saturnian ordering and restraining and binding quality that you know brings things together in the same way as the crosses of the acrostic, and I love it.
Hmm.
And kind of coming full circle, Paul Hewson's Mastering Witchcraft, right? It's just straight up called the Sator spell,
The classic.
the classic.
Select the Friday with the moon waxing and choose your time, either 8 a.m., 3 p.m., or 10 p.m. Then your altar, dressed in the usual manner for amatory workings. Purified chamber with fire and water, with the regular habundia, invocation, and attendant images. Then take a sheet of clean, white paper, such as you used for your square of Mercury, and after exercising it with water and fire, divide it up into 25 equal squares, 5 down and 5 across, with your pen and ink of art. Then chanting a suitable jingle, phrasing your intention with each letter that you inscribe, such as name, greatly desired and strong in love. The Satyr square is then written, following the order of the Paternoster interpretation. When you have finished, seal the charm with the triple cross, and so mote it be. Wrap it in a piece of clean cloth or place it in a box, and bury it into earth for a day and night, if possible at a crossroads or a place where two paths meet. A crossroads or churchyard is a traditional place, but a flower bed or ordinary patch of ground where two paths cross will do. When the 24 hours have elapsed, remove the talisman from the soil and give it to the keeping of the person it is to benefit. During the time they wish to receive its aid, they should carry it on their person and sleep with it under the pillow. The spell will not last forever, though. It is only good for about 28 days, and then a new talisman has to be constructed.
This is again a great example of just using the structure for whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a sponge for correspondence. Like it just soaks up whatever you throw at it, and it makes it have a little more oomph than it would otherwise, which I love. So for this, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 10 p.m., this is just straight up day and hour of Venus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Inscribing it in the order, burying it, date up. There's your love talisman. Perfect.
What do you think about the 28 days?
I hmm.
Because I've not had my set of squares expire, as it were.
Yeah.
I've re-anointed them, sometimes even redrawn them or traced over them in oil, or I fumigated them at times, but in general, they've been a little set it and forget it. Kind
Yeah.
of like a hexafoil, which you having, I appreciate you doing the research on the Satyr Square episode. I want to do a hexafoil episode in time, kind of like a similar overview. And yeah, this is definitely very similar, right? Yes, there are additional things that can be done to boost it, but ultimately it works on its own.
Totally. Yeah. It's like that was the thing that I always found interesting about this one is like I don't know where this 28-day period comes from because like in my experience too, they just go.
Hmm.
They just do the thing. And it's kind of that magician brain turning on where I'm like, I guess I could justify it, but I'm like, I don't know, they just kind of work.
Mm.
So let us know. Hit up the Discord.
Yes. Yeah, let us know what you think. Have you found that you have to refresh them, redraw them, and so on? Or have you felt what is a timeline with which you re-empower them if you do?
Totally, yeah. And let us know if you eat them or feed them to your pets because
Yeah,
it also works
literally.
with that.
I actually do know somebody who would do the letters in cheese blocks for their dog or on sliced cheese for their dog with a toothpick.
I love it. And yeah, very traditional use of it too. Because like we even see in Egyptian secrets, um, a lot of agrarian applications. It's this one too for the cow who has calved or has the fever or to prevent the milk from being taken during the year, which is as follows.
After the cow has calved, the appended words should be given. And when the animal has the fever, a letter must be suspended on her a Friday between the hours of 12 and 1. The letters taken 3 days in succession at an uneven hour is verbatim.
So I love it. Just feed it to stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of the freak stuff where it's like, what do you do with the juju to figure it out? Just eat it.
Yes. Yes, yes.
What do you do with the magic to make it work? Feed it to something. But yeah, that is the weirdness of the Sator Square. It does everything. Play around with it, do things with it, experiment because it is a template uh, with 2,000 years of experimentation and people just throwing shit at it and see what's happening behind it. So,
Mm.
one of the all-time favorites with an origin that may not have been so magical, but has taken on quite the magical life of its own.
Beautiful. Thank you, Key. I really appreciate that. That was great. And it was good to review some of the scholarship I had kind of played around with in the past, and also just a great validation and sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just go and do it. Put it
Yeah,
on everything. Have fun with it. Ask your spirits what they gain out of it. That's kind of what I meant earlier when I was doing the weather witching thing of just telling them, like, hey, I want to incorporate this into our regimen of seals and words of power because it's interesting to hear what your spirits get out of it. Like, show it to them and be like, what do you see? Does it emit a flame? Does it become three dimensional? Like, does it stuff rotating? Do you see the paternoster with the alphas and omegas? Like, is that what you're encoding out of it when you look at it and scry it and divine with it, or is it something else? Who is the Sator, as it were? And ask them what Arepo is.
yeah. The who or what.
Yeah, yeah. Who is she? Pradada. But yeah, thank you, Q. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming along with that.
Hmm.
The you know, and to your point, if people scry this thing and they see that weird inky blackness of the primordium of creation that you can pull any magic out of, that's like swirling like a vortex, hit me up. Let's talk.
Yeah, is that just me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Ah, yeah,
Pradada. New
yeah.
Bottega. Oh my god. Alright, what are our Akashic records?
It new book take.
Yeah, I knew it was.
Yeah,
And
it's
normally the joke song that we referenced in the beginning is in never the Akashic record. The Akashic records are too secret and hidden and esoteric.
yeah,
But it is this time. New
yeah.
Bottega. Rah rah
Yes.
rah. Oh, beautiful. Mine is Heilung's Tenet.
Love it.
Bottom text. Middle text, actually. You know what? Palindromic text.
Yeah. I'm omnidirectional.
Postrophodonic text.
Oh, I love it.
And what's our license to depart?
Our license to depart is the closely related another remedy for a burn. This is charm 122 in the long hidden friend, which immediately follows the Satyr Square there.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's hear it.
One lovely Sarah goes through the land with a fiery, burning brand in her hand. The firebrand burns, the firebrand sweats. Firebrand, thou thy burning leave. Firebrand, thou thy sweating leave.
I'm gonna paint my whips maraschino because I'm a fucking legend. And inscribe the center square on the inside of the whip.
Because I'm a fucking legend.